Alright guys, let's talk real quick about LPNs versus RNs as it goes to conflict issues. Do they get along? Do they not get along? Who gets along with who? And why not? So this is related to my personal experience and really nothing else other than that. So in my experience, LPNs and RNs as a whole do get along. Especially with your RNs that are ADNs or started as ADNs. Those are your community college graduates or various other school graduates, ECPI, places like that. They graduated with an ADN and then may or may not have moved up to the BSN. They typically get along really well. The people that do not get along with the LPNs or the LPNs do not get along with are typically your BSNs who are straight out of high school, brand new BSNs. These people, maybe this is just me, maybe not. These people feel entitled as they have got their BSN and they did it straight out of school. A lot of your LPNs or your ADNs typically did something else before they went to nursing school, and they're a little bit older already. Your BSNs are right around 21, 22 years old, straight out of school, and they can be entitled. Probably going to hurt some feelings on that one, but they definitely act entitled. Not all of them, not all of your BSNs act entitled, and especially not all of your 4-year straight out of high school BSNs act entitled. Not all of them and not always, but those are the typical nurses that don't get along are your BSNs that are straight out of high school that went straight in to get the BSN. And then they're like, oh, I'm a BSN. You only have a community college degree. I guess that they think that they're better than everyone. And they're the ones that you typically don't get along with. And why is that exactly? So, locally, I know everyone's laws are a little different. LPNs cannot do things like intake assessments. I'm gonna specifically say intake assessments because that is one that LPNs cannot do. Initially, LPNs can definitely assess, but the intake assessment locally has to be done by an RN, and it can be signed off. It can be assisted with an LPN, but it has to be done by an RN. So if you have an RN who is also drowning and you are drowning and you have to get an intake assessment done, you have to get an RN to do that. And they tend to not be very happy. And so that is definitely where the biggest area of conflict, in my opinion, happens. Is right there on that initial intake assessment. It starts right then, honestly. It starts right then with the RN LPN argument right there. Why do we even have you if you can't even do an assessment? Do the initial assessment. Why do we even have you here? Whatever, something like that. That's typically the go-to comment or the backhanded sort of statement. Why do we even have LPNs? They can't do initial intakes, whatever it may be. That tends to start the argument right there. To be honest with you, I heard that comment come out of a brand new in training, pre-assessing or not pre-assessing, training with an LPN. It was a girl training with an LPN. She was a BSN, brand new, straight out of school, and the LPN could not do the initial assessment. And that BSN was like, why do we even have you here? You can't even do this. Why am I even training with you? You can't even do this part of the job. And that LPN was actually right at retirement age, and she looked at that BSN and she said, I have forgotten more about this job than you will ever know. And I was like, zinged her right there. Yes, she did. And so that, that definitely ended that training session right there. It was quite comical if you were there. Anyways, that tends to be the start of it. Another thing is treatment plans, or whatever you may call it. Treatment plans, I've heard it called treatment webs before. I don't know why they said treatment webs. Things like that, for whatever reason, have to be signed off by an RN. But if you are an RN, you can sign your own off. And so if an LPN comes up with a treatment plan, an RN has to sign it off. And that also tends to start arguments. Why do we even have you if I have to sign off your treatment plan? Why don't we just, get rid of you and get an RN? And comments like that get under people's skin, especially if they went to school for the job that they're doing and they're very good at the job that they're doing. And then little snide comments, get under people's skin, and then that tends to start arguments very quickly. However, this is not common. What is common more than anything, regardless of your title, is that the older nurse eats their young. That is more common regardless of title, LPN or RN. That older nurse will eat their young. And in my opinion, it's kind of done in a tough love way. Learn by your mistakes. I, as not a new grad, don't want my new grads to mess up. And I'm probably going to call them out wrong when they try to mess up, I'll say. And that's probably going to come off in the wrong way. But I'm trying to protect you, the unit, the patient, everybody. And I'm not really trying to eat you. We're in a high-stress environment. But I'm probably going to come off the wrong way. It tends to happen. But regardless of title, the older nurse, in a loving way, a tough love way, tends to eat their young. Some nurses are just very vindictive and hazing, and it's very ugly at times. But that's not common, but it does happen. Another thing that LPNs run into, and this tends to be an LPN issue only, RNs will probably get this as well, but this is directed specifically to the LPNs, is your CNAs, your techs. They tend to respect you less because it says LPN behind your name than it does RN. I definitely have heard in multiple conversations with my own CNAs, this is me specifically talking, I am sorry that you didn't get your RN. It's like, are you serious right now? Like, I just delegated something to you, and you're going to flat out tell me no because it says LPN. And they're like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. You're not a real nurse. No, I'm... Right now it says charge nurse right now next to my name. You listen to me. No, not till RN tells me to do so. Are you serious right now? Like, even though I don't have the ability to fire you right now, I definitely want to. You can't be serious right now. I had heard that like multiple occasions. I've heard, oh, I'm sorry, you have LPN next to your name and not RN. I'm not gonna do it. It's like I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I am talking about. Delegating a task to the CNA. Like, oh no, I'm not doing that because that's not my job. That's your job. That gets aggravating. That gets old quickly. I will say I've had more, I'm going to say disrespect. More disrespect, more arguments, more clashing of the titles with CNAs than I have RNs. Probably tenfold. It's been a lot worse with the CNAs than the RNs. It is what it is, but it happens a lot more with the CNAs than it does with the RNs. It's like, if you're an LPN, it's like all of a sudden you don't know what you're talking about, despite the fact you've been in this career, for 10 plus years or 20 plus years or however many years you've been in it. All of a sudden this brand new CNA isn't doing it because you don't know what you're talking about, even though you've been on that unit for years, which happens and had happened to me as well. So I hadn't been there for, 20 years, but I'd been doing my job long enough to where I understood what I was doing. And that CNA was just out to get me, I guess, or, it was multiple CNAs, but that specific one. But those are the LPN versus RN, really medical staff conflicts that you're going to have. When it comes to providers, they don't, I don't really say they don't really care. Providers have one nurse. they just pick a favorite, regardless of title, and providers will go to them. That's not really a title issue. Providers just like that one nurse for whatever reason, and they come to them and they say, hey, nurse, I want you to do this, or delegate this to everyone else, or, whatever it may be. But the RN LPN issues, in my opinion, don't happen very often. They do happen, but they don't happen very often. It's the CNA to LPN issues that happen. RNs probably get a lot of disrespect from CNAs as well. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I feel, in my opinion, that it is more directed to the LPNs from the CNAs. I hope it helps. If you like this video, check that one out over there. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe over there. Thank you much.